All right, it is Sunday night, the weekend of July 21st, and welcome to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Shout out to James St. Patrick from the Discord asking about the review. We got you tonight. I was out last week since I was sick. Sorry about that, but we'll make up for lost time. Taking a look at the price action for the indexes last week, starting with the NQ price. What do you see there?
Well, so this last week, in the last 2 weeks, we'll go ahead and cover that. We still saw some more all-time high, but we pretty much immediately failed that and then offered some great shorts there, which have very much played out to the downside here. And we're in a pretty precarious position where it is definitely possible where they could buy this up, achieve, hold, and continue. But it's really looking like they're going to bring it down. And instead of achieving, they're going to reject the level here. And they could bring it down to this 19,450 level and kind of slurp this spot. But it would make more sense just to keep going and then put in a little level like that again and continue back on the way up. If we don't hold that level there at 19,000, we're going to come down a good bit further. At least, I'd say another 500 points would be a very reasonable expectation on the NQ. But what we're looking for is this achievement back in the range and then a hold, and that's what gives us the indication that we're no longer catching a knife. What do you think about that on the NQ?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of go over the local price action here, I completely agree with your levels that need to be gained. I mean, you could zoom in and kind of find a more local regain somewhere
Right
up here. You know, you could be looking at 19,800, but really the level that sent us down to the low here, kind of being up where you pointed out, we want to gain above that, hold a higher low, and then kind of start regaining to kind of restart that uptrend look. Totally agree with you there. To kind of talk about what you talked about, the week before last. We talk a lot in the Discord about trend, just look at the higher time frame trend. Everything on the lower time frames, we want to trade those lower time frame trends, but you got to keep the higher time frame trend in mind or you'll be taking counter trend moves when you don't want to be. You want to trade with the trend, and you kind of really saw the first potential, we've had really nice continuation to the upside, like you pointed out, this new all-time high up here. And then we put in this nice higher low, and then we didn't actually make a new higher high after that. So when we put this in here, it was like, okay, are we going to make a new low, or are we going to put in, another high after that at some point? And we did end up getting continuation down. You could have found that by taking short up here if you looked at the level to hold there. Right, that one broke to send us to the high. We lost it, retested it, failed. So there was options to get in on this short. It was tough, but there was only really one. But there were options there. And so until we kind of regain on the daily, in my opinion, right, put in a new higher high and higher low, we're still looking for shorts. I do personally agree with you. Just why I'm talking about that is I do think the downside is more likely until we see that daily trend time frame trend regained. And right now, I mean, if you can just look locally at the 4 hour, the level that we lost after attempting to hold, we retested it again and we closed below. So I still think we're probably going to end up seeing lower here. Again, can still look out this week for the regain, but does look like lower to me as well. And there ain't a lot of support on the way down right now, so I'm thinking another 700 points down is pretty likely. Anything to add with kind of what I was saying?
Nope, I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably
it's gonna be a big move. In order to regain, we have to make quite a big move up, and if the trend continues, it's quite a big move down. So it's gonna probably be a pretty spicy week or two. Anything different on the ES in your mind?
Well, on the ES, we haven't quite lost the level. We do have this area right here, which is the last area where we came up to before we broke out from it. And so that's a good area to be longing. But unfortunately here on the 4 hour, we haven't quite achieved in the same way. On the 1 hour, you can see this very local level here. So, the dream is alive locally, but it still looks more likely that it's going to continue down. Now on the ES here, it doesn't look like it needs to continue down as far, or maybe just that it hasn't gone as far as the NQ yet. But what we're really looking for is regaining this level and then putting in a higher low and then continuing up. We need to see this regain, and we haven't quite seen it. We do have this little level here, but it's not a very convincing look for me. So that's why it looks like it's going to just continue down a little bit further, but there's some closer areas here than we saw on the NQ that we need to be looking for opportunities to long. We could definitely come all the way down to 5,500 pretty quickly here. That would still be a pretty good area for them to turn it around and bring it back into the range. What do you think about the ES there?
Yeah, it does look, we haven't quite retreated past the lows that sent us up, that held us up like we did on the NQ, but there still isn't this regain like you're pointing out here, so I'm still thinking lower. These are, these lows here at these two levels start to look like nicer areas to hold, although the higher low look, higher high look here could be nice if we can kind of lose this level, regain it, do something like that, and then take out this level. That's something that I would like. Otherwise, I don't think it's unrealistic to kind of see these levels get tested again. And then that'll kind of be more of the conversation about like, okay, this is going to be a bigger level, and we lose quite a few more points if that happens to be the case. But we'll just have to see. It's going to be one of those, we're back in the let's see what happens. But definitively, the trend on these big indexes is definitely shifted to the downside. So until we see a regain on the 4-hour daily chart side, you're kind of catching the knife until we see a definitive higher high and higher low put in. So be patient on those trades and try to look for some shorts. That's kind of what I'm on for this week. Do you have anything to kind of talk about the rest of the ES before we kind of move on?
No, we can keep going. Yeah.
Cool. RTY the last 2 weeks have been very constructive. We've been talking about like, are we going to break this short origin for quite a long time, and we've been saying, we'll kind of keep knocking on the door here, looking a little bit wishy-washy, and then we finally broke through it. So 2 weeks ago, we ended up blasting through tons of force buying. And if we zoom out on the weekly, of course, like we've been pointing out, this zone is the area that if we can break that, there's going to be a huge move up. And kind of what happened is, we just ended up taking out the area that was the last area after losing the all-time high. They tried to hold to kind of regain, sent us down. So that makes sense that we kind of tested there. Now, I think the key takeaway for me is we're back in this range again. And so I just want to see, for continuation, which I think there's a strong case for that, I just want to see that level hold, kind of somewhere in this box, but I like that level specifically. I want to see that level hold for continuation back up to, another 200 points from there, really. 2150 to 2350-ish is not unrealistic at all, I think, here. But, there's been so much, we spent so much time down here. There's going to be a lot of, potential fuel to get us back up here again. If we start to lose this zone and kind of move farther back down into where we came from here, it'll be a lot less exciting. That might even look like a potential false breakout. Personally, I don't believe that's what we're going to see, but that, we always have to be aware of the probabilities here. Right now, I'm just looking for this to put in a nice higher low after breaking back out into the high of this range, and get some continuation to potentially a new all-time high. What do you think?
Well, on the weekly here, it looks pretty good. Anywhere in the green box looks good to me. Looking at it more locally, I totally see what you mean by the yellow line there. But anywhere in here, I'm good for a wick down to and a hold. Ideally, yeah, we wouldn't close below 2150 there on the daily. But you can see how it's a nice little level to come down to. I like it for continuation there as it comes down.
Yeah, and I just want to say about that level, that's a weekly chart level in my opinion. I wouldn't even mind it if it spent a few days down there and then slurp back up and close back up there on the weekly. That's fine in my opinion.
Absolutely.
That would just be a nice little continuation look. Because I actually, if you really wanted to kind of nitpick and get in on it, this is the level that failed. 2080 is like the perfect slick. If we can slurp down here and then get them back up here and regain, that is
ready to go to all-time high.
And it's gonna knock out all the liquidity of these breakout buyers. It doesn't have to, but that'd be really nice. So that's kind of probably the best level on the chart. You know, even on the lower time frames. The higher time frame, I just want to see 2150 get maintained. That is that. No reason to expect further downside on the RTY until we lose those areas. But gold has been incredible. So last week we ended up getting a new all-time high. So 2488-ish up there. So that's a nice look. Pretty locally though, we have put in a lower low. Right, so this was the, you know, on the way up here. Higher high, higher low, higher high. So the level that sent us up from that consolidation there, we've now closed below that. I think that we could see, you know, if we end up getting follow through to the downside, I'm putting in our lower high. 2452 is probably the level. So I think that we could see, and if I go down to the 4 hour, this is more obvious. I would love to see this. This is a nice test. If we can get back up here, hold that level, and then come back up for a retest up here. If I see this hold, I would love to take a long for, you know, an attempt to retest this kind of zone up here at 2450, and then start to see, you know, are we going to get the failure, potentially take a short for you know, a lower low, because that'd be a big move. You know, if we put out a lower low lower than 2400, it's going to be a big move, and I want to capitalize on that. But also I think that if we can regain, hold that zone, potentially close back above the failure here at 2470, that will probably tell me, okay, we're gonna see a new all-time high, and we're probably gonna go up another like 50 points from there to 2500. So that's kind of what I'm looking at super locally. What do you think about that on gold?
Well, so I really like where it's at now. I see this level here that came up and produced that low, which I'm pretty sure.
That is lower than the, yes.
That is a little lower. So it holding here, right here, and regaining makes perfect sense to me. It's just what we, you know, the stair stepping, and that's what it looks like on the lower time frames. Which this is gold, so I mean daily isn't the lower time frame, but it's gold. So I really like that level. And if they can bring it back up here in the next day or two, I think it's good for longs in the same area. Just like you said, bring it up, and I'd be looking to long this right here, just like you had that higher low for continuation up. If not, we'll definitely be coming down here to the 2350 area below these lows, and probably lower. That low is from right here, and that put in the other low before the move up to here, and so that's why I'd bring it down if it doesn't gain up here, and that's where I'd be longing.
Yeah, I like that zone too. That's the level that held on the way up as well.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it makes sense, and I like that you pointed that out. That's good. We don't need that now, but yeah, I think the key takeaway here is if we can regain this zone, looking for longs, and then just kind of waiting and seeing what happens up here. If we get the failure, you could take a really nice, big, juicy, good RR short for another lower low up there. And if not, you can get a nice long at the level we're talking about here too. Then you can have some left over for the new all-time high, hopefully. So we'll have to see. What are your thoughts on the Dow this week? Kind of a big departure from the other indexes, huh?
Yeah, so this has come back on some of those breakouts there on the 4 hour, which makes a lot of sense. We haven't quite achieved in the same way. Let's see what the 1 hour looks like. It did come up above this level where it previously tried to hold, but it didn't stay there. So we would be looking for potentially it can't go below and print below 40,488 here. If it prints below, then you're definitely looking for shorts and continuation down. For me, to be perfectly honest, I'd want to see this regained before I took a long. So if we saw something like this, I'd definitely be looking for a long there for continuation up. Or if we see it close below here, I'd definitely be looking for a short, probably at least down below 40,000 here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, locally, I see those exact things. I mean, obviously, if we regain this level, it starts to look like putting in, a nice higher high and higher low look there. But also the same, this was the level that held, and that caused the pump up. So if we lose that, it does start to look a little bit worse. On the higher time frame, I think we could come back down like this losing this level and coming back down on the daily doesn't look so bad to me. This was a big breakout, so I would not be shocked to see this kind of get tagged again, retested, and then that taken as sort of the continuation look for the daily. Tagging out all the stops on these breakout buyers and then holding this zone and sort of using that to come back up and retest all-time high potentially. Now that's a big move all in one go, but
right.
I'm just saying that's kind of where I would be looking for potentially starting to see that happen. But super locally, like you're pointing out, this is clearly the range where that's going to get decided. So I will say that I think if you're lower level here, if this gets lost, we're going to see that level that I was just pointing out get tested. Like there isn't really anything below this. So
yeah, absolutely
where I'm looking. So I agree in that regard. Oil had an interesting week as well. What do you think about the oil retracement here? We did end up losing 80 again.
Yeah, it's quite the sell-off. But it's coming down to normal levels. Especially on the daily there. You can see how we did definitely lose the level, but we're still above these levels that have been gained and not, I'm going to say, fully tested. You could call this a test of the level here, but it hadn't really achieved it yet. So to me, it looks like there's a box right about here, and I know it's inside another box that's wider. We could probably, now that we've kind of tested this, squish this box a little bit right about here. And I could probably go smaller than that, but that's about what I'd be looking for right there. Anywhere in this zone still looks really good as a higher low, so we've come up, we've accumulated at this level, we've achieved again, we achieved over this level in this swing, and now we just need to come down and hold a higher low, and after that it would be a tall order to get back up to 86, but we do know we have to go down before we can continue up, so that's not the wildest look to see there. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think it could even go a bit crazier than that, because I think there are consolidations here on the way up, like there, but they're all continuation. There's been no retracement. It just consolidated at the level and continued up, consolidated at the level, continued up, consolidated at the level, continued up. So you could get a pretty deep retracement here and it would still look fine, because I'm considering this the low.
Absolutely.
And so this is a new high above the high that sent us down. Anywhere in here can be a higher low compared to here. So I'm thinking you could even come all the way down here.
Yes.
And hold. And just
yes.
Pump from here. And I think here's what I'm looking at. My key thing is I don't want to see 76 or 75.50 get lost. If that does, it's going to start looking like we're failing the whole thing. So that's kind of the level to the downside. The upside, if we can put in a new high above here, and I'll delete this line after we're getting pretty noisy, but 84, if we can clear back above that, there's a lot of forced, look at all these lower highs on the way down. There's a lot of short stops above all these. It can be a lot of forced buying if we can get back above 84, trigger the stops up here at these shorts. I think you could see a big gain from about 84 to $90 real quick if we can come back up and take this high out. And I think that now that we've put in this kind of low and put in a new relative high, definitely time, even though we're on the way down, looking and kind of watching for the reversal in the lower time frames, you get a really juicy long that'll pay out really high really quickly if that high ends up getting taken out. So that's kind of where I'm looking right now on oil. I think that we're just setting up for a nice higher low to come back up here. That's what I think.
Definitely.
Let's look at the dollar. That was an interesting week as well. So, we had some pretty deep retracements. We'd been talking about we really don't want to lose 104.2. We actually ended up testing it, attempting to regain, and then putting in a new low. So that's definitely a new low. And then immediately kind of getting bought up the next day and closing back in the range. So kind of getting more surgical because we kind of have to here. So you can kind of see this 104.2. We lost that, put us to the low, and then immediately came back up, regained. We tested it, and now we're holding it. So here's the two potential outcomes for longs that I see. Number one, this is going to hold, and we're going to break out, back up, and kind of come and reclaim this zone again, and we can try again to come back up here. That's the trying again look. Or we can lose this level and kind of hold this other zone, like somewhere around here, maybe like something like this, just not putting in a new low, come back up, regain, and try again. If either of those don't happen and we get a new low down here, the dollar, let's look at the daily, the dollar's gonna lose like 2 points, like a lot of points, in my opinion. Like it's gonna go all the way down here, potentially to the origin of this move. Like so.
Yeah, 103.02.
103. Like yeah.
That way.
That's a lot. That's gonna be a big loss. So that's a point on the dollar. And we've been saying for a long time that we think the dollar's gonna go up, and I don't think that is in jeopardy right now. But I think we're close to losing it. If we lose 103, then we are starting to lose kind of all this regain right here. I do not think the actual like maximum pain point is way down here, but that'd be a pretty big loss. I'm thinking we're at a pretty big make or break point for the dollar. We're either going to hold this zone in here, somewhere in one of these two levels, or we're really, really going to lose a lot on the dollar. So I think this week is going to tell quite a bit about what's going to happen for that. What do you think?
I agree. I do think that on the 4 hour here, it's actually got a pretty good regain look. It still needs to fully gain right here, but we have come up above the local level that was lost, and we have tested it. So if it can continue, just like you said, we're looking pretty good on the dollar. If not, it's going to come down, and if it can't hold the low, it'll continue down. And it probably won't hold the low.
Well, that's what I think. I think that's a weaker level to hold. The level it's at now is a much stronger look. So we'll just have to see what happens, but it's going to be spicy. So the banks, we kind of looked at this week, and we were just like, well, that's unexpected. Like we hadn't really looked at it for a week, and now it's just absolutely pumped. Obviously, that's the main level that we've been looking at for a really long time, 56.5, that we wanted to see regained, and we thought over a long period of time it looked like we were doing what we needed to do, but more locally, and recent price action had been a little bit more wishy-washy. But I think the main takeaway here is when we gained these levels, we took out this level, right, 50.5. Even though we lost it, this is still a nice higher high. And these lows ended up holding the lows and not making a new low. So when we regained the level in this box, right, when we tested that and then regained it again, so that's the failure that sent us down. So if we can regain that level, we can retest the high, and there was a lot of buying when that happened. So that makes sense why that happened. Now the amount of buying was significant, but having tested all these levels on the way down, they didn't offer a lot of resistance on the way up. So I think this makes total sense. It was still kind of wishy-washy at the time and hard to catch, but after seeing this level get tested and putting in a higher low, this makes so much sense. I still think, given what we can see right now, specifically, I don't think we're going to continue blasting through this level. It can absolutely happen, but it makes more sense to kind of come back here and kind of slurp some of these breakouts at one of these levels before continuing higher. But this is a strong continuation of the uptrend reversal move. So I still think longer term we'll see higher. In the short term, the next couple of weeks or maybe a month or so, we could see lower before that, but still looks good for higher to me.
Yeah, I'd like anywhere from 53 to 50 there. We've got these levels that we've gained and no real tests. So anywhere in there is a good high or low for continuation up.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say until we kind of see which one we get, but I think the only other thing to talk about would be like, okay, what would failure of this look like? I think as long as we hold 48, we're okay. Yeah. That would be a pretty deep retracement, and that's why if we start to lose that, we're throwing stuff away. But if as long as we hold kind of anywhere in here, then we are good for higher, in my opinion. And I think this is the next level. The failure that really kind of sent us down. You could argue it's probably actually closer to there. So $60 after 56.50 is probably the next kind of zone to start talking about. But it looks like we're pretty primed for starting to see that at some point. You have any last comments before we wrap that up? I think that covers most things.
No, I think we're good.
Cool. Well, thanks again for tuning into the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you like this kind of content, sub to the Hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. We'll see you next week.
Till next time.